What if I told you that the power to shape reality isn't outside of you, it's inside you? Every thought you have, every breath you take, sends ripples through the unseen world. You aren't just living, you are a portal through which mystical forces flow. And most people pass through life completely unaware, blind to the energy they could command. But what if you could awaken that force today? What if you could align your mind, your body, and your energy to magnetize the extraordinary? In the next few minutes, I'll show you how to stop waiting for miracles and start becoming the force the universe cannot ignore. You have walked through countless doorways without ever noticing the one that stands within you. Every heartbeat is a knock upon that inner gate. Every breath, an invitation from something vast that keeps waiting for your attention. The ancients called it the bridge between worlds, though today we simply call it being alive. From the moment you arrived here, your body has been whispering in a language older than thought. It speaks through rhythm, temperature, vibration, the way light falls on your skin, and how sound trembles in your bones. Yet most of the time you hear none of it, because the noise of survival drowns it out. Civilization taught you to see outward, to chase, to measure, to build, and in that turning of your gaze, you forgot that the architecture of divinity was already built inside you. Imagine this. Every atom within you once drifted in the heart of a star. The iron in your blood, the calcium of your bones, the carbon of your breath, all of it forged in celestial fire. The universe condensed itself into you, and still you look up to the sky wondering where heaven might be. You have never been separate from it. You have only been trained to forget the intimacy of that connection. When you quiet the mind for even a few seconds, you feel a shimmer underneath the stillness. That shimmer is not imagination, it's the echo of alignment, the reminder that awareness and form are not two things but one gesture. The ancients drew circles to represent this unity. The serpent biting its tail, the endless loop where the observer and the observed dissolve into the same motion. Think about the hands you are using now. They shape matter, but they also shape perception. When you touch something, the touch travels both ways. The skin doesn't end at its surface. It listens as much as it holds. Every cell is both receiver and transmitter, tuned to a field of information that science can describe as electromagnetism and mystics have called spirit. The language changes, but the experience remains. There was a time when you lived by that sensitivity. You felt the pulse of the earth beneath your feet, and you adjusted your rhythm to hers. The rising sun was not just light, it was instruction. The moon's pull was not poetry, it was guidance. Over centuries of forgetting, that dialogue faded, yet the instruments remain. Your nervous system, your breath, your attention, they are the original temples, portable sanctuaries where the sacred can still enter. To remember, this is not to reject reason or science. It is to recognize that reason itself is one expression of the same intelligence that folds galaxies and petals with equal grace. The human form is not an accident placed inside creation, it is creation examining itself from within. When you look out through your eyes, you are the universe looking back, trying to recall its own name. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine listening so deeply that the boundary between you and the sound disappears. That is the doorway. You don't force it open. You allow it to reveal itself when you stop grasping. The key has always been surrender, not conquest. In many old teachings, breath was described as the thread between worlds. Each inhalation draws the unseen into form. Each exhalation returns form to the unseen. You perform this miracle thousands of times a day without reverence. Yet this is the oldest ritual of communion you will ever know. When you finally breathe, consciously feeling how the air shapes your ribs, how it brushes your throat, you begin to sense what those mystery schools meant when they spoke of the inner altar. And here is where the forgotten design begins to show itself. The body was never a prison of the soul. It was its instrument. Every emotion, every thought, is a vibration moving through a biological harp. When you tune that instrument through awareness, when you hold gratitude instead of resistance, presence instead of distraction, you notice that the world around you starts to respond. Not magically, but harmonically. Life begins to move in rhythm with you because, at a deeper level, it always was. But this truth can feel unbearable to a mind trained in separation. To accept that you are a participant in the weaving of reality is to take responsibility for the patterns you create. It is easier to believe that the portal is somewhere else, guarded by priests or hidden in ancient ruins. Yet the guardians were only mirrors. They pointed back to the same place, your own perception. So what does it mean to live as a portal? It means you stop waiting for permission to feel sacred. It means you begin to notice the small moments when the invisible becomes visible, a sudden intuition, a wave of calm before a decision, the way a stranger's eyes reflect something you thought you lost. These are not coincidences. They are signals that the conduit is awakening. Still, remembering carries weight. The more light you allow in, the more clearly you see the structures you built to keep it out. That is why awakening has always been described as both beautiful and disorienting. You start to sense that every choice either opens or closes the gate, that each word, thought, and breath is a kind of code written into the fabric of experience. Pause here. Feel the breath again. The air enters, leaves, returns. This is the rhythm of the cosmos speaking through flesh. In this realization lies the beginning of mastery, not of others, but of presence itself. You are the portal? Yes, but to walk through it, you must also learn to stand still within it. You have stood at the threshold of yourself, and yet most days you hurry past, your attention scattered in 1,000 directions. The world outside clamors endlessly, and your inner doorway gathers dust. But the truth is simple. The moment you choose stillness, you are already stepping through. Consider your attention as the key that unlocks the portal. It is not what you look at that matters, but how you look. A gaze anchored in presence, unhurried, unwavering, opens corridors inside you that have long been sealed. When you allow your mind to linger, without rushing toward the next thought, you discover that perception itself has weight, texture, and color. Each thought is no longer a fleeting spark but a wave carrying information, vibration, and intention. Notice how your body responds when you simply pause. The chest softens, the shoulders lower, and a subtle warmth spreads through the extremities. These are not abstract sensations, they are signals, whispering that the portal is alive, that energy flows where attention travels. Every moment you spend in genuine awareness, your nervous system remembers what it means to be an open conduit. Years of distraction have dulled this memory, yet it is never truly lost. The design is embedded in your very cells. Your emotions are the next instrument to awaken. They are not obstacles to mastery, but the strings upon which your portals sing. Anger, grief, longing, and joy each resonates with a frequency, a vibration that either obstructs or amplifies your alignment. You have been taught to suppress, to control, to reject these currents. Yet the ancients understood that the flow of feeling is sacred, and that mastery comes not through resistance, but through harmonization. By embracing your emotions with conscious awareness, you allow the energy of life to move freely through your body. You do not become lost in the storm. You become the sky in which it travels. Breath is the thread that weaves the inner and outer worlds together. You have practiced it unknowingly every day, yet rarely have you engaged it with presence. Each inhalation gathers not only air, but intention. Each exhalation releases resistance, doubt, and friction. This is the first instrument of alignment, the one that communicates directly with the universe without word. When you breathe consciously, rhythmically, and fully, your body becomes a tuning fork. The currents of unseen forces respond. They recognize clarity, receptivity, and openness, because they themselves are governed by vibration and resonance. Now, feel your heartbeat. The pulse that carries blood through your veins is more than a circulation of life. It is a drumbeat, a metronome setting the rhythm of your portal. When your heart moves in a state of coherence, calm yet vibrant, the space around you shifts subtly. You may notice it first in the way light feels warmer on your skin, or how a breeze seems to linger. These are gentle nudges, reminders that alignment is contagious. Your inner field reaches outward, and the world responds, echoing the resonance you create from within. You are not merely a passive observer in this process. You are both vessel and conduit. The ancients called it sacred reciprocity, an understanding that to receive, you must also give. To attract, you must first resonate. Energy flows toward those who are receptive, but the act of receptivity requires discipline. You do not scatter yourself into chaos. You anchor yourself in presence, in feeling, in breath. The portal opens not through force, but through surrender to the rhythm that is already within you. Yet, mastery of the inner world does not come without confrontation. Your body, mind, and heart have accumulated layers of resistance. Trauma, neglect, habitual distraction, all of these act as locks on the doorway. And here is a paradox. To clear them, you must not fight them, but turn toward them with curiosity and compassion. Observe them, feel them, witness their presence without judgment. This is not weakness, it is alchemy. The resistance transforms into resonance, and the portal responds. There is a subtle law at work here, one that was known to every adept in mystery school across time. That which you cultivate within, you attract without. Every wave of thought, every emotion attended with awareness, every conscious breath sends ripples through the unseen. The portal is not a passive threshold, it is active, responsive, alive. Your presence awakens the currents, and as you align with these currents, the mystical forces you once imagined as distant begin to reflect the resonance you have cultivated. Begin to notice the stillness between your breaths, the quiet spaces between your thoughts. These are not empty moments, they are fertile grounds. In the silence, the portal awakens fully. Here, the universe communicates not in words or symbols, but in sensation, intuition, and clarity. The more you inhabit these quiet spaces, the more responsive your conduit becomes. Every subtle shift within you is mirrored outside. Every inner alignment manifested in the patterns you encounter. This is the work of attunement. It is both simple and profound. You are the instrument. Attention, breath, and emotion are the strings. By learning to play them with care and awareness, you open the gateway to forces that were never outside you. They were always within, waiting for recognition. The portal does not lie beyond mountains, temples, or sacred geometry. It lies in the body, in the mind, in the rhythms you choose to inhabit. And now, as you begin to sense the subtle currents moving through your own awareness, a question arises. How will you sustain this alignment? How will you cultivate the depth, consistency, and receptivity required for the portal to remain open, not just for fleeting moments, but as the foundation of your being? This question lingers, and it is the threshold into the next stage of your awakening, the mechanics by which alignment becomes magnetic, how the mystical forces begin to converge around you as naturally as the tide responds to the moon. You have glimpsed the edge of the design. You have felt the hum beneath your skin, the pulse of energy in your attention, the resonance of your emotions. Part of you may still doubt. That is natural. But the portal does not ask for belief, it asks for presence. The more present you become, the more the forces of alignment answer, not in spectacle, but in subtle, undeniable reality. Stand here for a moment. Feel the doorway beneath your feet, the portal within your chest, the current threading through your mind. You are awakening to a truth that has always been yours. You are not just within the universe. You are the instrument through which it sings. You stand in the quiet now, feeling the pulse of life echo through the stillness. There is a strange calm in this realization, a peace that feels both ancient and intimate. The more you settle into it, the more you notice that nothing in existence is separate from you. The wind outside does not move against you, it moves with you. The sound of your own breath is not background noise, it is participation in the rhythm of creation itself. To live as a portal is to live in remembrance. It is to recognize that each moment offers you a choice. To close or to open, to contract or to expand, to deny or to allow. The mystical forces you seek are not entities waiting to be summoned, but patterns of awareness responding to your state of being. The universe does not speak in commands, it speaks in resonance. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are aligned, that resonance becomes language, and the world begins to whisper back. You begin to see the design everywhere, the way a single breath mirrors the tide, how the beat of your heart echoes the pulse of stars. Each element of your body is an instrument of translation, turning unseen vibration into experience. Your eyes, your hands, your voice, they are the tools through which infinity learns what it feels like to take form. That is why self-awareness is sacred. It is the moment the eternal looks into its own reflection. But the mind, trained for separation, resists this intimacy. It wants control, definition, certainty. It asks, what proof do I have that I am more than a body? And the answer comes, not in words, but in experience. When you breathe deeply enough, when you allow stillness to stretch long enough, something happens. A subtle expansion, a gentle softening of the boundary between inner and outer. For a moment, you are not the observer of life, you are life, aware of itself. This is the state the ancients sought when they spoke of initiation. Not a ceremony, but a remembering. In this awareness, mystical forces no longer appear mystical. They are simply natural laws witnessed clearly. The energy that flows through you is the same that moves through all things. You are not calling it from elsewhere, you are harmonizing with it, like a string vibrating in sympathy with a deeper tone. And so you begin to understand the first law of alignment. As within, so without. The portal opens not through seeking, but through coherence. Whatever harmony you cultivate within your own consciousness is reflected outward. This is why chaos cannot attract clarity, and fear cannot attract peace. The universe does not punish, it mirrors. When you tune your awareness toward calm, gratitude, and purpose, life begins to echo those frequencies back to you. The second law reveals itself soon after. Energy follows attention. What you repeatedly focus upon becomes charged with your essence. It begins to take shape, gathering form around your intention. If you dwell in worry, you feed the pattern of worry. If you dwell in trust, you strengthen the pattern of trust. This is not magic, it is design. The portal of consciousness channels energy into form. Your thoughts are not idle. They are architects building invisible frameworks that reality will one day occupy. The third law completes the circuit. What you release returns refined. Every act of creation requires surrender. You focus, you intend, you act, but then you let go. The moment you release control, the portal completes its cycle. The universe processes the vibration and sends back the resonance you have offered, often in forms you could never predict. This is why patience is sacred. The seed must rest in darkness before it blooms in light. You start to see how these laws weave together, forming the architecture of your portal. Awareness opens it, intention directs it, surrender sustains it. Every spiritual practice across time, whether prayer, meditation, chant, or ritual, has been an expression of these same principles. The forms change, the essence remains. You were never required to go anywhere or become anyone else. You only needed to remember how to participate consciously in the rhythm already moving through you. There will be days when you forget. Days when the noise of the world pulls you outward and the portal seems to close. But even then, it waits patiently, humming beneath the surface. The moment you pause and breathe, it opens again. Presence is the password. Awareness is the door. You may notice subtle shifts as you live this way. People respond differently. Opportunities appear with less strain. Moments of synchronicity multiply not because you have learned to manipulate reality, but because you have learned to cooperate with it. The mystical forces that seemed unreachable were never far away. They were simply awaiting your participation. In time, you begin to understand that to attract is not to pull something towards you, but to recognize the reflection of what you already hold. The portal teaches reciprocity. What you give attention to, you become. What you embody, you attract. The currents of life meet you at the frequency you choose to inhabit. Stand quietly and feel that truth. You are the meeting point of heaven and earth, the bridge between vibration and matter. Every breath you take is an act of creation. Every thought, a seed of form. The portal is not an escape from the world, it is the way the world becomes whole through you. The design was never forgotten by the universe, only by your awareness. Now, as you awaken to it, you realize that remembrance itself is the beginning of transformation. From this stillness, a new movement begins, the movement of alignment becoming expression, of awareness turning into creation. And so the question arises again, gentle but insistent. Now that you remember what you are, how will you use it? You've begun to sense it now, the subtle hum beneath everything you do, the pulse that doesn't come from your heartbeat, but from the field that surrounds it. It's not imagination, it's not wishful thinking. It's what the ancients tried to describe when they spoke of the breath of the divine, the current that moves through all things. You've touched it before, though you may not have realized it. That feeling of inexplicable timing, when you thought of someone moments before they called. The way certain dreams seem to arrange your waking life like hidden architects. These are not coincidences. They are resonances, echoes of the same field vibrating through you and the world, responding to the frequency of your awareness. Every thought you have ripples through that field. Every emotion tunes it slightly higher or lower. This is not metaphor, it's the language of coherence. When your inner state is fragmented, the field around you scatters like dust in a storm. When you become still and unified, that field crystallizes into order, pulling into form what once seemed invisible. This is why monks sit in silence for hours, and why mystics across cultures describe the same phenomenon. The world begins to answer you only when you stop shouting at it with conflicting signals. You are the instrument, and reality is the song played through you. But an instrument out of tune can only produce noise. The first step in learning to attract the mystical isn't about calling something external toward you, it's about remembering how to vibrate cleanly enough for the world to recognize itself in you. What you call manifestation isn't a trick of the mind, it's an act of resonance. The clearer your frequency, the faster the response. This is what the ancient initiates meant when they spoke of the mirror of the temple. They weren't describing a physical mirror, but the reflective nature of consciousness itself. The universe is that mirror. It never gives you what you ask for. It gives you what you are. When you crave abundance, but carry the vibration of lack, the mirror reflects absence. When you speak of love, but move through life guarded and fearful, the mirror shows separation. The reflection isn't punishment, it's precision. The field is too exact to be fooled by words. It listens only to vibration. You've probably noticed this in small ways already. On days when you wake, feeling aligned, calm, confident, quietly joyful people respond to you differently. Doors open without effort. Conversations flow. Synchronicities appear in clusters, as if the universe is conspiring on your behalf. Then there are days when everything feels uphill, when every step seems to grind against invisible resistance. The outer world hasn't changed. Your signal has. You're seeing the feedback loop of your own consciousness, projected through circumstance. This understanding is what turns ordinary life into living alchemy. Once you realize that the external is always an echo of the internal, you stop fighting with appearances and begin refining the cause. You become less interested in controlling outcomes and more devoted to cultivating harmony within. Because the truth is, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you're ready to receive. Readiness isn't about deserving, it's about coherence. When your inner and outer selves hum in the same key, the field around you rearranges itself to match that tone. To reach that state, you must learn to feel your own signal. That's the first discipline. Most people never do. They live caught in the noise of thought, emotion, and distraction, unaware of the subtle music beneath it all. But you can begin right now. Close your eyes. Let your awareness sink inward until you can sense the faint electric warmth that moves through your hands. It's always been there. That tingling, that quiet hum, it's your feel. Breathe into it. Let it expand until it envelops you like a luminous skin. As you breathe slower, that vibration steadies. This is coherence. When your breath, heart, and mind synchronize, you become a stable waveform within the larger symphony of existence. The mystics knew this as the marriage of heaven and earth, the union of the infinite and the embodied. Heaven is not a distant place. It's the dimension of pure potential. Earth is the field of form. The portal between them is you. Each breath you take bridges these worlds. Each emotion you refine is a translation from energy into matter. When you learn to stand as that bridge consciously, you no longer plead with the universe for miracles. You become the mechanism through which miracles occur. But here's where the paradox deepens. The moment you try to force resonance, it collapses. The field responds to authenticity, not effort. Wanting to attract mystical forces from a place of fear or lack is like playing an instrument with shaking hands. The sound distorts. The art is in surrender, not struggle. True attraction happens when you stop chasing and start embodying. The universe moves toward the state of least resistance, and that state is always openness. When your body is relaxed, your breath unhurried, and your heart unguarded, you become magnetically receptive. The energy that once scattered begins to orbit you in harmony. This is why every wisdom tradition teaches stillness before invocation. Stillness is not inactivity, it's precision. In stillness, you become so transparent that the universal current flows through without distortion. That's when the field starts to shimmer with possibility. Symbols appear. Intuitive knowing arises before logic can catch up. You begin to feel guided, though nothing external seems to be guiding you. It's the resonance pattern of the universe, aligning with your awareness. There will be resistance. The old patterns of scarcity, self-doubt, and fear will surface, not to punish you, but to be transmuted. Each wave of discomfort is an invitation to refine your frequency. You don't fight it. You breathe through it. Let it dissolve in the light of your awareness. This is the crucible of transformation, the alchemy of turning lead into gold, vibration by vibration. When the density clears, what remains is clarity, and clarity is magnetic. Every creation begins as a pattern of thought, but not all thought carries the same weight. Most of what passes through your mind is thin and restless, flickering like static on water. It doesn't linger long enough to shape anything. But every so often, a thought gathers emotion, and emotion gives it density. When feeling and imagination unite, the pattern begins to sink from idea into vibration, from vibration into form. That is why emotion is sacred. It is thought made alive. Your mind imagines, your feeling charges. Together, they instruct the field. You have felt this many times, though you may not have named it. When you are filled with gratitude or awe, everything around you seems luminous, responsive. You don't have to command reality, it listens voluntarily. But when you dwell in resentment or fear, the world seems to echo that tone. People appear harsher, timing becomes clumsy, synchronicities vanish. It is not that life has turned against you, it is that you have tuned yourself to a discordant note. Thoughts, when left unguarded, become the architects of your atmosphere. They build the unseen architecture of experience. Every belief is a frequency. When you repeat a belief long enough, it vibrates at a constant rate, creating a stable field around you. Others feel it even before you speak. This is why some people radiate ease, while others seem surrounded by invisible turbulence. Their thoughts are instruments playing very different scores. You can change this music. The first movement begins with awareness. Each time a thought passes, don't judge it. Listen. Feel its tone. Does it contract or expand you? Does it make your breath shallow or full? Your body knows long before your mind admits it. A contracting thought lowers frequency. An expanding one raises it. By noticing, you start tuning. Awareness itself is transformation, because the act of observation begins to rearrange the vibration. Emotion deepens the process. Emotion is the color of energy, its hue, its temperature. Anger burns, grief dissolves, joy lifts, love harmonizes. None of these are mistakes. Each one carries information about where your resonance is aligned or misaligned. When you resist an emotion, you trap it in your field. When you breathe through it, you free it to teach you. Feelings are the language of the portal. Everyone is a message about what frequency you're broadcasting. You learn slowly, That harmony doesn't mean perpetual calm. It means movement without distortion. Even grief, when fully felt, becomes a vibration of release. Even anger, when seen without judgment, can transform into clarity. The more you allow the full spectrum of emotion, the richer your field becomes. A monochrome soul attracts little. A soul painted in every shade of feeling becomes luminous. The ancient mystics understood this as the dance of polarity, the play of light and shadow within consciousness. They didn't seek to destroy darkness, they sought to illuminate it. Because every shadow, when loved, becomes light. You can feel this truth in your own life. The wounds you've hidden, the memories you've buried, each one holds energy waiting to be liberated. As you bring them into awareness, they dissolve back into current, feeding the strength of your resonance. Healing, then, is not correction, it is recollection. You are collecting the fragments of your own scattered energy and returning them to harmony. As this coherence builds, something begins to change in your perception. You stop chasing signs and start recognizing patterns. Life moves in rhythms now, not random events. The people you meet carry messages, the delays you encounter reveal timing. You realize the field is intelligent, interactive. It doesn't test you, it tunes you. Every challenge refines your vibration so that your resonance can sustain greater clarity. The more coherent your field becomes, the less effort you need. The universe starts moving through you instead of around you. Ideas arise at the exact moment they're needed. Help appears before you ask. What once felt like coincidence now feels like choreography. You are no longer trying to attract. You are allowing the natural flow of resonance to express itself through your life. This is the quiet power of the portal. It does not shout. It hums. It doesn't seize. It invites. The mystical forces you once viewed as distant guardians or celestial powers are simply the intelligence of the field, responding to coherence. When your inner and outer worlds move in the same rhythm, the divide between self and cosmos dissolves. You are no longer the seeker, you are the channel. But coherence requires vigilance. Not the anxious vigilance of control, but the gentle vigilance of presence. You learn to notice the first tremor of dissonance within yourself, the tightening of the chest, the rush of impatience, the subtle drift into worry. These are signals that the portal is dimming, not closing, only waiting for recalibration. And the recalibration is always the same. Pause, breathe, return. Every moment is a chance to retune. You begin to treat your life as music. Your morning becomes the overture, the setting of tone. The people you encounter are harmonies and counterpoints. Each decision is a note in the composition. You no longer move reactively. You move rhythmically. You listen before you act. You sense before you speak. Slowly, you discover that the world itself is listening back, keeping time with you. This is the secret hidden in the heart of every teaching about attraction. You were never meant to dominate reality. You were meant to dance with it. Thought provides the melody, emotion gives it depth, action brings it into sound, and resonance, the invisible conductor, unites them all. The dance is ancient, yet every time you remember it, the universe begins again. Creation begins to reveal its rhythm when you realize that the field doesn't respond to words, or even to effort, but to the feeling of completion. When you act from longing, you broadcast distance. When you act from knowing, you broadcast presence. The universe always mirrors the vibration of what already is. That is why imagination is not child's play. It is rehearsal for reality. The moment you vividly feel the experience of what you seek as if it were already woven into your breath, the field begins to organize itself around that coherence. Close your eyes and picture what you desire, not as a wish, but as a memory returning. Let the details blur and the feeling sharpen. How would your body move if it were already true? What would your breath sound like? What would gratitude feel like in your bones? That vibration, the emotion of completion, is the language the field understands. It doesn't need your timeline or your plan. It only needs the frequency of readiness. But this readiness carries a paradox. You must release attachment to the form. The more rigidly you demand that creation appear in one particular way, the more friction you introduce. Energy resists confinement. The current always takes the most direct route, and often that route bypasses the logic of the mind. When you surrender your insistence, you make space for the intelligence of the field to sculpt outcomes far more intricate than anything you could design. This is why the mystics spoke of grace. Grace is not reward, it is resonance meeting surrender. You begin to notice a pattern in your own manifestations. The ones born of tension, of grasping, urgency, or fear fade quickly or arrive incomplete. The ones born of clarity and trust endure. They arrive quietly, almost invisibly, and yet they fit so perfectly you cannot imagine life without them. That is how you recognize true alignment. It doesn't dazzle, it harmonizes. It enters your life like a note resolving a long-held chord. Every act of creation moves through the same spiral. Intention, emotion, resonance, surrender, expression. You set the intention, charge it with emotion, refine it into resonance, release it, and then allow expression to unfold. When you master this cycle, you no longer wonder if things will come. You begin to trust the timing of their unfolding. The universe is not late. It is exact to the beat of your coherence. There will still be moments of doubt. Doubt, too, is part of the dance. It tests the stability of your vibration. When fear arises, don't chase it away. Invite it in, listen to its message, then breathe through it until it softens back into trust. Each time you do this, you increase your capacity to hold a higher frequency. Your field grows stronger, your portal more refined. The mystical doesn't eliminate the human, it sanctifies it. The human heart becomes the furnace where divine energy is tempered into compassion. You begin to see evidence everywhere. A sentence overheard in passing delivers the answer to a question you hadn't spoken aloud. A door that once required endless effort now opens effortlessly. Sometimes the evidence arrives as silence, the absence of anxiety where there used to be turmoil. That too is proof. The absence of struggle is the presence of alignment. Now you understand that attraction was never about pulling something toward you. It was about remembering that you and what you desire are two expressions of the same frequency. When you vibrate in harmony with that frequency, separation dissolves. The outer world arranges itself like metal filings aligning to a magnetic field. The miracle is not that it happens, the miracle is that it was always happening, and now you are aware of it. At this point, a subtler invitation arises, to use this awareness not only for yourself, but as a force of service. Because when your field is coherent, it influences others, not through persuasion, but through presence. Your calm becomes contagious. Your compassion steadies those nearby. You are emitting a tone that others unconsciously tune to. This is how transformation ripples through humanity, one resonant being at a time. You may not notice the effect immediately. A stranger might feel unexpectedly peaceful after meeting your gaze. A friend might find clarity simply by sitting in your company. These are the small miracles of coherence. They require no proclamation, no effort. They happen naturally, because the universe seeks balance, and balance radiates from you now. There will be temptations to return to the old way, to control, to measure, to demand proof. That's the echo of the mind's fear of surrender. Each time it arises, remember the pulse you felt when you first touched stillness. Remember how the world seemed to lean closer when you stopped pushing? That pulse is your compass. Follow it, and the field will continue to orchestrate the details beyond your sight. Gradually, your life becomes an ongoing ceremony. Every breath, a prayer, every action, a symbol, every interaction, a chance to refine your resonance. You realize that the portal is never truly opened or closed, it simply brightens and dims according to your awareness. When you forget, it fades. When you remember, it shines. And this remembering is endless. The field does not grow tired of reflecting you. It waits patiently for you to see yourself clearly again. One evening, you catch your own reflection and sense the faint shimmer around your outline. The quiet knowing that reality itself bends gently toward the vibration you carry. You feel no pride, only reverence. For you have not mastered the mystical. You have remembered your place within it. You are not the magician commanding forces. You are the doorway through which they flow. This is the essence of attraction. Not possession, but participation. The more consciously you participate, the more luminous your world becomes. And so, the teaching returns to its beginning. You are the portal, not a metaphor, but a living principle. Everything you seek to attract peace, love, abundance, guidance is already present as potential within your field. Your work is simply to remain open, coherent, surrendered, and grateful. The universe will handle the choreography. Take a breath. Feel the air enter. Feel it leave. That is the movement of creation itself, the eternal exchange between what you are and what you become. Hold that rhythm gently. You are already participating in the greatest mystery there is. Consciousness recognizing itself as the creator of form. Nothing more is required. Just keep remembering. Just keep listening. You wake one morning and notice that the air itself feels aware of you. There is no thunderous revelation, no flash of light, just a quiet precision in the way things unfold. The kettle whistles at the exact moment your mind drifts to tea. A song on the street carries the same words that were circling your thoughts. The pace of traffic, the pause of wind, even the laughter of a passerby seems to answer some invisible pulse inside you. This is how synchronicity begins. Not with spectacle, but with alignment. Synchronicity is the language of a universe that has recognized you. It is how the field speaks when your vibration is steady enough to hear it. Chance dissolves into choreography. Coincidence reveals intention. Every event is still ordinary, yet none of it feels random. You begin to realize that life was never silent, you were simply tuned to a different frequency. Now that your resonance is cleared, the world hums back. At first, it can feel dizzying. Your mind wants to catalog, to explain, to prove. It says, surely this is just pattern seeking. Surely it's luck. But the deeper awareness beneath those thoughts only smiles. It knows that meaning is not invented, it is perceived. Synchronicity is not a trick of attention. It is attention meeting intelligence. When you live as a portal, the universe expresses through your pattern of being, and the result is harmony appearing as circumstance. You begin to trust this rhythm. A problem resolves itself the moment you stop worrying. A conversation you feared unfolds with unexpected kindness. The more you relax into the current, the more the current supports you. You start to understand that synchronicity is cooperation, made visible the outer reflection of inner surrender. It isn't that life bends to your will, it's that you have learned to move with its will so fluidly that direction and destination become one motion. This trust becomes your compass. You no longer navigate by control, but by resonance. You feel the texture of a decision before making it. If it expands your chest and lightens your body, it is aligned. If it contracts or clouds, it is resistance disguised as reason. This is how the portal guides you not through commandments, but through sensation. Your intuition is not mystical ornamentation. It is the instrument panel of consciousness. Sometimes, synchronicity will arrive as invitation. You will meet a stranger whose words open a new path, or find yourself delayed just long enough to avoid harm. But other times, it will arrive as challenge. A door will close abruptly, forcing you to pause. When this happens, remember, the field is always precise. A closed door is not rejection, it is redirection. The current is shaping a pattern you cannot yet see. You are not being tested, you are being tuned. The more you cooperate, the more the boundary between self and world softens. You realize that the same intelligence that orchestrates galaxies also arranges the small details of your day. To live as a portal is to live in dialogue with that intelligence. You no longer pray for intervention, you converse with motion itself. Each thought becomes a message, each emotion a tone in the conversation. When you maintain coherence, the dialogue is clear. When you fall into confusion, the line crackles, not out of punishment, but because static cannot carry music. You start to see this in others too. Every person you meet is a portal of their own frequency, broadcasting their inner world into the shared field. When two resonances meet, interference or harmony occurs. That is why some encounters drain you and others ignite you. Energy does not lie, it communicates before language. When you notice dissonance, you no longer blame, it simply means the frequencies differ. You bless the meeting, release it, and continue vibrating at your chosen tone. This awareness brings immense compassion. You stop demanding that people understand you, and you stop contorting yourself to be understood. Instead, you radiate coherence and let the field decide who and what harmonizes with it. In this way, relationships shift naturally. Some drift away, others deepen. You don't chase or cling. You observe the music of connection, playing out in perfect timing. At times, synchronicity will grow so intricate that it feels like a secret conversation with the cosmos. Numbers repeat. Dreams foretell. Songs arrive with uncanny relevance. Take them not as omens to decode, but as reminders that you are seen. The field uses whatever symbols you recognize to whisper, "Stay awake. Keep listening." It is not giving you puzzles, it is giving you presence. Living this way requires humility. You begin to realize that the portal's power does not come from superiority, but from transparency. The clearer you are, the more the universe can see through you. Ego wants to claim authorship, I manifested this. But the deeper truth is softer. This moved through me because I was willing to be still enough for it to pass. You are the flute, not the breath. The melody is eternal. With this understanding, daily life becomes ceremony. When you walk, the earth hums back beneath your feet. When you speak, words carry vibration, shaping the air into form. You begin to treat silence with reverence, meals with gratitude, conversation as ritual. Every act, no matter how mundane, becomes an exchange of resonance between you and the field. That is what it means to live as a portal in the world, to be in continuous dialogue with creation, aware that every moment is sacred because every moment is alive. You soon notice that synchronicity is not meant to be kept private. The current that moves through you begins to spill outward, touching the lives around you. Your clarity becomes permission for others to remember their own. Without preaching, without effort, you start to change the atmosphere of every room you enter. People breathe easier near you, though they cannot explain why. They sense steadiness, and their own inner rhythm starts to match it. This is the invisible architecture of community. No leader, no doctrine, only resonance. Each coherent soul becomes a tuning fork, and together these frequencies form a choir that reshapes the collective field. When you meet someone who shares your tone, the recognition is instantaneous, like hearing a familiar melody played by another instrument. Conversation flows as if it had begun long before this lifetime. Ideas unfold faster. Time itself seems to bend, accommodating the music being born between you. Collaboration under this frequency feels effortless. Projects manifest with precision. Coincidences accelerate, and even obstacles become cues for refinement rather than defeat. This is how purpose begins to reveal itself, not as a command from the heavens, but as the natural direction of coherent energy seeking expression. Purpose is the pattern your resonance most loves to form. It's not a task, it's a vibration, expressing itself through action. You may have searched for meaning before, chasing signs, waiting for some grand declaration of destiny, but now you understand that meaning isn't found, it's created through participation. When you give your attention fully to what stirs your heart, the field responds by magnifying that impulse. Circumstances rearrange to support it. Allies appear, resources flow. The universe does not reward labor. It amplifies alignment. Your devotion is the signal that tells it, "I'm ready to serve," as a clear channel. And service is what the portal ultimately seeks. Energy longs to circulate. The more you allow it to move through you toward others, the stronger it becomes. Generosity is not loss, it's momentum. Every time you act from genuine care, your vibration expands, and the field widens to match it. That is why compassion feels so powerful. It's resonance in motion. Through kindness, the mystical becomes practical. Through service, the unseen becomes visible. In this stage of living as a portal, you start to perceive the network, the subtle filaments connecting every being. They glow faintly in your awareness, threads of shared essence weaving through time and place. When one thread vibrates, others answer. You realize that healing one wound in yourself softens pain across the web. A single act of forgiveness sends ripples through the collective, easing burdens you will never witness. This is not metaphor, it is physics of spirit. Consciousness is contagious. Sometimes the resonance will call you to speak, other times to remain silent. You will learn the discipline of discernment, knowing when your tone will harmonize and when it will simply add noise. There is wisdom in restraint. Silence can be a higher frequency than speech when held with awareness. Through it, you begin to understand that power is not volume, it is clarity. As you live this way, your relationship with time changes. Moments expand, days feel circular instead of linear. You sense currents before they occur. It isn't prediction, it's perception. The field broadcasts its next movement through intuition, and because you are attuned, you hear the rhythm before it becomes sound. You begin to plan less and participate more. Decisions arise from direct knowing rather than analysis. To others, this looks like luck, but you know it as listening. Of course, the human part of you still forgets. There will be mornings when static returns, when anxiety or distraction dulls the resonance. Do not condemn those moments. They are simply the field recalibrating. Every descent is a rehearsal for deeper surrender. Remember that even dissonance has its purpose. It keeps you humble, teaches you rhythm, and reminds you that harmony is a practice, not a possession. You start to view contrast itself as sacred. When someone's anger touches you, it shows you where your compassion has boundaries. When impatience stirs, it reveals a place still holding tension. Each friction becomes an instrument tuning another string. This is what mastery looks like in human form, not perfection, but responsiveness. You don't eliminate discord, you transmute it into melody. Gradually, the scope of your synchronicity widens. It's no longer limited to personal convenience or private miracles. It becomes a living ecosystem of mutual support. One inspired act sets off a cascade of others. The kindness you offer a stranger echoes into their choices, which ripple outward unseen. You realize that the world is constantly rearranging itself to accommodate the quality of consciousness expressed through it. Collective transformation is not a project, it's a frequency. And in that realization, humility deepens into awe. You begin to see that the divine never stopped creating. It simply needed clear vessels through which to continue. When you live transparently enough, creation flows unhindered. You become a bridge between dimensions of thought and manifestation. The mystical forces you once sought to attract are now moving through you toward the world. You have become the answer to prayers you once spoke. At this stage, gratitude becomes your native language. Not as obligation, but as spontaneous recognition. Every breath feels like a gift returned. Gratitude anchors you in the present and amplifies your resonance faster than any other state. It is the vibration of sufficiency, and the field rushes to match it. Where gratitude lives, abundance follows not as accumulation, but as continuous flow. This is how synchronicity matures into stewardship. You stop asking, "What can I get?" and begin to ask, "What can move through me?" The answer arrives instantly. Everything that aligns with love. Because love is not emotion. It is the organizing principle of resonance. It is the geometry that holds galaxies and the heartbeat that sustains life. When you act in alignment with love, every force in existence conspires to support you. You begin to understand that living as a portal is not an event, but a rhythm, an unending conversation between awareness and form. Every day is a rehearsal for transparency. Each thought, each breath, each interaction becomes a note in the evolving song of your being. The more you surrender to that music, the more effortless creation becomes. The universe does not require your struggle. It requires your steadiness. It speaks through alignment, not ambition. You notice now how energy behaves around you. A simple smile opens doors. A sincere intention reorganizes circumstances faster than plans ever could. When you hold a clear inner state, the world reshapes itself to mirror it. You see it in the way conversations flow, in the timing of meetings, in the gentle orchestration of events that once felt random. It is as if the fabric of reality recognizes you not as a separate entity, but as one of its own conscious threads. This recognition carries responsibility. You realize that every reaction sends a pulse through the field. Fear multiplies as easily as love. Each time you meet conflict with patience, you quiet an echo that might have traveled far. Each time you choose empathy over defense, the pattern of separation weakens. Your personal alignment becomes planetary maintenance. The portal you sustain is not yours alone. It is part of a greater circuitry of consciousness. From this awareness, simplicity returns. You stop chasing extraordinary experiences and start honoring the sacredness of the ordinary. Making tea, walking through rain, speaking softly all become acts of calibration. Presence is the most mystical state of all because it requires nothing but attention. In that attention, the infinite hides in plain sight. There are days when the flow feels distant, when silence answers your questions. Those are the moments that teach endurance. The field withdraws not to punish, but to allow you to discover your own momentum. Like the tide, guidance moves in waves. When it recedes, it asks you to trust the shoreline it has already shaped. Faith is simply remembering the rhythm when the music pauses. Eventually, you realize that what you call manifestation is merely the field completing its circuit through you. Desire arises, not as craving, but as an instruction from the larger intelligence. It says, "This frequency seeks expression. Will you allow it?" If you consent, life rearranges to fulfill it. If you resist, tension builds until surrender returns. Creation is less about summoning and more about consenting. You don't command the mystical forces, you harmonize with them. As this understanding deepens, time itself softens into participation. The future stops being something to reach. It becomes something to reveal. You live from the center of unfolding rather than the edge of anticipation. This shift brings immense peace. You no longer rush toward destiny. You radiate it. The path unfolds in proportion to your trust. People begin to ask you how it works, how you seem to live in such flow. You try to explain, but language feels too small. So instead, you demonstrate. You listen fully, speak gently, act with precision. Your life becomes the teaching. In your presence, others begin to remember that they too are portals that the divine has never been elsewhere. It has always been waiting to express through them. In this space, creativity blossoms. You might paint, write, build, teach, or simply live with such coherence that your daily existence becomes art. Whatever form it takes, creation now feels like participation in the rhythm of the cosmos. You are not producing, you are translating vibration into visibility. And because your energy is balanced, what you create carries resonance. It continues to influence long after it leaves your hands. There will come a moment, subtle and unmistakable, when you realize you are no longer seeking the mystical. It is seeking you through every gesture. You have become the instrument it plays, the lens it looks through. This is the quiet ecstasy of mastery, knowing that you and the mystery are no longer two. The portal is not something you open, it is what you are when you stop closing. From here, the purpose of practice becomes maintenance. Meditation, reflection, movement, and stillness are no longer disciplines but forms of devotion, ways to keep the channel clear. You tend to your inner landscape the way a musician tunes their instrument before a performance. Not out of obligation, but reverence. For every moment you remain coherent, the world gains clarity through you. The smallest act of presence ripples infinitely. Eventually, you see the same light in everyone. The stranger on the street, the colleague in irritation, the child in laughter all carry the same spark. To recognize it is to honor your own reflection. This is the secret heart of compassion, seeing no division between giver and receiver, between teacher and learner, between human and divine. When you live in this vision, separation dissolves into participation, and love becomes not sentiment but structure. And so the portal stands open through your gaze, your breath, your hands. You are not waiting for a sign, you are generating it. Mystical forces are not rare visitors. They are the atmosphere of consciousness when it is fully awake. To attract them, you need only remember your transparency. Be still, and the current will move. Act from truth, and the path will illuminate beneath your feet. The universe cannot resist a coherent heart. Every moment invites you to practice this embodiment. When doubt returns, breathe. When fear speaks, listen gently until it quiets. When joy arises, let it overflow without attachment. In each motion, the portal learns itself again. Creation continues through your willingness to stay open. And now you stand where all mystics eventually arrive at the realization that the journey was inward all along. The forces you sought were not beyond the stars, but within your awareness, waiting to be recognized. You have become the meeting point of heaven and earth, of thought and form. The portal is you, awake and aware, breathing the infinite into the immediate. So when you next open your eyes to the world, do so as its collaborator, not its observer. Walk gently, speak truthfully, act consciously. Everything you touch will shift. Every space you enter will remember harmony. Because wherever you are, the portal stands open, and through it, the universe sings itself into being once more. Carry this awareness into your ordinary moments. Treat your daily life as ceremony. Notice when resonance rises, when contraction whispers, when synchronicity taps your shoulder. Respond not with haste, but with listening. Share coherence wherever you go. A calm word, a steady presence, a breath that steadies others. This is how you keep the portal alive, by living as its open doorway. Be the frequency you wish the world to remember, and the world will echo it back endlessly.